80% of drivers think they're excellent. Only 33% actually are. And that gap costs fleets billions every year. If you're running a fleet, you're on one of two paths. Path 1, no structured safety program, risks slip through the cracks. Path 2, you've got a program, but it's not fully optimized. It tracks past events, but it doesn't proactively change driver behavior, which reduces the savings you could achieve. That's why fleets need a better system, one built on predictive analytics, behavioral science, and fair rewards that drivers can trust. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 key points: why traditional safety programs fail, how fleets actually change driver behavior long-term, how safer driving reduces insurance premiums, how fleets reduce collisions while keeping drivers motivated, and what the real ROI of incentive-based safety programs looks like. By the end, you'll know exactly why most safety programs fall short and what fleet managers can do to build a stronger, fairer system that protects drivers, cuts costs, and delivers real change. Let's start with point 1. Why traditional fleet safety programs fail. Collisions cost fleets billions every year, and yet many safety programs haven't solved the problem because improvements rarely last. Think about what happens in practice. A driver is called in to review their scorecard. You tell them they had 6 safety events last month. They don't remember the details. They get defensive, and the conversation ends in frustration. For a few weeks, their numbers improve, but before long, the same habits come back. And that cycle plays out in fleet after fleet. Why? Because traditional programs weren't designed to drive sustained change. They often check a box for compliance, but they don't build better habits. Scorecards and cameras record what happened, but they don't prevent it from happening again. And for drivers, the system can feel like Big Brother, waiting for them to slip up. Some even say that the only time they hear from their manager is when they're in trouble. Fleet managers face their own struggles. More devices mean more data, and suddenly they're reviewing every harsh brake, every camera event, and every alert. To cope, thresholds get raised, say only flagging speeding if it's 20 miles over the limit. That might help with workload, but it waters down the program and it creates new risks. You had the data, but no action was taken. Here are the red flags that show a program that isn't delivering lasting results. Drivers get defensive instead of engaged. Coaching conversations repeat with no long-term progress. Collisions and near misses don't decline in a meaningful way. Leaders see some savings, but progress plateaus, and they can't push beyond it. Traditional programs can make a dent, but they often hit a ceiling. Drivers feel punished instead of supported. Managers get overloaded, and fleets are left stuck with temporary gains that don't last. So how do you create a safety program that sticks? That's what we'll look at next. In just 40 days, one fleet saw a 38% improvement in driver behavior. Here's how they did it. Most fleets want safer drivers, but the problem is this: traditional safety programs don't create lasting change. They rely on after-the-fact coaching and generic scorecards. Drivers get told what they did wrong and that they need to do better. That blame-first approach frustrates drivers, hurts morale, and doesn't actually impact bad habits in the long term. Here's a real-world example of a mid-sized building supply company that used Geotab Vitality, a program designed with behavioral science at its core. Their fleet of heavy-duty delivery trucks faced the same struggles many fleets do. Field discussions and advisory boards helped, but they still couldn't get drivers to change their behavior in a meaningful way. The turning point came when they rolled out Geotab Vitality. The launch focused on clear communication. Drivers were told up front that only company vehicle data would be tracked, not personal driving. That transparency built trust, especially with more experienced drivers who were hesitant about technology. From there, the model shifted. Instead of punishing mistakes, drivers got personal feedback through a mobile app that they could check anytime. Weekly goals they could track on their own, and rewards for safe habits that turned small wins into daily motivation. Within 40 days, the results were undeniable. A 38% improvement in driving behavior, with drivers now performing 7.7% safer than comparable fleets. The leaderboard added a healthy competitive edge, and drivers began to take ownership of their performance. One shuttle driver put it best: The Geotab Vitality app has completely changed the approach to driving. It's a positive reinforcement tool to earn points every day. It also generates your own personalized goals, and little effort is needed in the app to get the reward dollars to grow. Just drive safely. The lesson is clear. Lasting behavior change happens when fleets build on 3 key building blocks: predictive analytics to spot risks early, behavioral science to guide steady improvement, and rewards and recognition to keep drivers engaged. These are the essentials every fleet should expect in a safety program if the goal is real change. Think about it in 3 simple steps. See it, drivers get personal feedback on their own data. Improve it, habits build through small, steady progress. Get rewarded. Recognition and rewards keep drivers motivated to continue. When drivers feel supported instead of blamed, improvements last. And when safer habits stick, collisions drop. And when collisions drop, insurers notice. That's the ultimate win-win. Drivers feel recognized and rewarded for their efforts, while fleets see safer operations, lower claims, and stronger performance. And that leads us directly into the next point: how safer driving directly lowers insurance premiums. One of the clearest and most measurable ways to know if a safety program is working is whether your insurance premiums go down. I've seen fleets earn up to a 20% saving on premiums when they can prove safer driving. But here's where many fleets struggle. If you can't show insurers that risk is actually going down, they keep charging the same high rates. Traditional programs track events, but they don't build safer habits. Without lasting behavior change, there's no proof of lower risk, and insurers have no reason to reduce premiums. Here's a better example. A fleet that moved to a behavior-based program cut collisions by more than 20%. With fewer claims on the books, the insurer recognized the reduced risk and lowered their premiums. That's what real fleet insurance savings look like, tied directly to measurable driver improvements. Programs built on behavioral science make this possible. We designed Geotab Vitality with exactly that in mind, helping fleets turn data into habits that prove to insurers that drivers are safer. And once that proof is in place, premiums follow. Think about it like this. Safer habits equal fewer collisions equals fewer claims equals proven lower risk, and therefore lower premiums. That's why insurance savings are one of the most tangible returns on investment from a well-built safety program. And it's also why the next point matters: how fleets can reduce collisions while keeping drivers motivated. Punishing your drivers is not a safety strategy. It does 4 things. It lowers morale and motivation, increases turnover, leaves collision risks unchanged, and creates a negative safety culture across the company. Ultimately, all of this impacts your bottom line. When morale drops and collisions stay high, costs keep piling up, from claims to repairs to recruiting new drivers. That's why building a culture of support and accountability is the only way to make safety improvements that last. So what does this look like in practice? It means shifting from a blame-first model to a system where drivers get clear feedback, trackable goals, and recognition when they improve. Fleets that do this don't just reduce collisions, they build trust. They keep drivers engaged and create a healthier culture across the entire company. Here's a real-world example. A building supply fleet running heavy-duty trucks adopted Geotab Vitality, a program designed with behavioral science at its core. Instead of punishing mistakes, drivers received personal feedback, weekly improvement goals, and rewards for progress. In just 40 days, their performance improved by 38%. Drivers did not feel targeted, they felt motivated. One driver explained, "Having Geotab Vitality was such a great idea. It is very easy to use and earn points. It's awesome that management is doing this for the drivers. I appreciate them for thinking of us and our safety." The lesson is bigger than any single program. Fleets that use positive reinforcement to reduce collisions are the ones that design systems drivers actually believe in. Here's what to keep in mind. Personal feedback helps drivers see exactly where they can improve. Positive recognition builds habits that last, and a supportive culture keeps drivers motivated and lowers both collisions and turnover. If you don't yet have a structured program, start by setting clear expectations, building trust, and creating small wins that drivers can track. If you do have a program, but it's not creating lasting, safer habits, it's time to rethink how it engages drivers. Culture drives results. A safety program built on support and motivation will take you further than one built on penalties. Which brings us to the next point. Collision frequency and severity. If collisions aren't decreasing over time, your program isn't reducing risk. Insurance premiums. Safer fleets often earn premium reductions. Some fleets have reported savings of up to 20% when insurers see consistent lower risk. Driver turnover costs. Replacing a driver costs an average of $8,250. If recognition keeps drivers engaged, turnover should decrease and those costs go down. Safety score improvements. Programs should provide benchmarks drivers can track. Consistently rising scores show real behavior change, not short-term compliance. Engagement and participation. Strong buy-in signals that drivers believe in the program. If engagement fades quickly, results will not last. And the good news is that fleets with well-structured safety programs see additional benefits that go beyond safety. Safer drivers have greater fuel economy and produce less wear and tear on your vehicles. All of this goes straight to your bottom line. At Geotab Vitality, we've built a system with those principles in mind. If you want a starting point, you can download our free guide, and it'll give you a clear baseline of what a good program should include. If you already have a program in place, use these 5 metrics as your audit. Look closely at your collisions, premiums, turnover, safety scores, and driver engagement. If those numbers are not improving, the ROI is not there, and you may need to adjust your strategy. The goal is to walk away knowing exactly where your program stands. With the right structure and the right measures, safety can stop being a cost and start becoming an investment. We opened with the reality. 80% of drivers think they're excellent, but only 33% truly are. That gap, combined with collisions costing more than $417 billion each year in the US, shows why safety programs are so critical. So we covered 5 key points. First, we looked at why most traditional fleet safety programs fail. Leaders often focus on penalties and reports instead of building programs that actually guide drivers to improve. Then we talked about what works, giving drivers personal feedback, setting clear goals, and rewarding progress. This creates lasting behavior change and helps drivers choose safer habits every day. Safer drivers mean fewer collisions, and that leads directly to the health of the business. For many fleets, the #1 cost driver is insurance. We showed how fleets with a stronger program have seen premiums reduced by as much as 20%. Next, we covered culture. When fleets replace punishment with recognition, drivers stay motivated and engaged, and retention improves. That prevents the high cost of turnover, which averages more than $8,250 per driver. And in the last point, we went over how to measure the ROI of incentive-based programs. Incentives show up in real results: fewer collisions, lower premiums, and stronger retention. This is how fleets tie safety directly to the bottom line. Here's the bigger picture. Think of it as a ripple effect that builds on itself. Safer drivers lead to fewer collisions lead to fewer claims lead to lower premiums, and lower premiums free up money to reinvest in your drivers and your business. That is the cycle every fleet leader should aim for. So what should you do next? If you don't have a structured program, your first step is to put one in place. If you already have a program, test it against the right benchmarks. Are collisions dropping? Are premiums improving? Are drivers staying with you for longer? If not, it's time to evolve. We created a guide that shows what a strong program includes. You can use it as your baseline. And if this video helped you, subscribe for more resources designed to help fleets cut collisions, lower costs, and build a culture of safety that drivers can believe in.